Asterisk Sarah Beth wiped the sweat from her brow as she stood on the front porch of the weathered farmhouse, watching the last of the afternoon sun paint the Oklahoma sky in shades of amber and rose. 2-year-old Emma played quietly at her feet with wooden blocks, their gentle clacking the only sound breaking the evening stillness. Asterisk, it had been 8 months since the accident took her husband Daniel. -1 months of struggling to keep the 100-acre farm that had been in his family for 3 generations. The bank notice crumpled in her pocket felt heavier than the feed sacks she'd been hauling all day. Asterisk, Mama. Look, Emma said softly, holding up a tower of blocks that wobbled precariously. Asterisk, that's beautiful, sweetheart, Sarah Beth murmured, her voice catching slightly as she smoothed her daughter's blonde curls. How could she explain to a 2-year-old that they might lose their home? Asterisk, the cruel irony wasn't lost on her. If she were married, the bank would extend her loan without question. A single woman with a small child, however, well, that was a different story entirely in 1987. The loan officer had made it clear find a husband who could co-sign, or lose everything by month's end. Asterisk, that evening. As Emma slept peacefully in her crib, Sarah Beth sat at the kitchen table surrounded by unpaid bills and legal documents. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 9 times, each note echoing through the house like a countdown to disaster. Asterisk, she thought of her neighbors, the Hendersons with their kind smiles and gentle ways. Tom Henderson had been Daniel's closest friend since childhood, and his wife Mary had brought casseroles every week since the funeral. But asking them to help with something like this, it seemed impossible. Asterisk, then there was quiet Jacob Miller, the bachelor farmer who lived on the adjoining property. He'd been fixing her fence posts without being asked, leaving fresh vegetables from his garden on her doorstep, never staying long enough for a proper thanks. His silence had always seemed comfortable rather than awkward, like a man who understood that sometimes words weren't necessary. Asterisk, the next morning brought a gentle knock at the door. Sarah Beth opened it to find Jacob standing there, hat in hand. His weathered face kind, but uncertain. Asterisk, morning, Sarah Beth, he said quietly. Noticed your tractor's been giving you trouble. Thought I might take a look. Asterisk, she studied his face, seeing something she'd never noticed before. Behind his reserved manner was a depth of understanding, as if he'd been carrying his own burdens for years. Asterisk, Jacob, she said slowly, could we talk? I mean, really talk? Asterisk, he nodded, following her to the porch where Emma was playing with her blocks again. The morning air was crisp with the promise of autumn, and somewhere in the distance a meadowlark sang its liquid song. Asterisk, I'm going to lose the farm, she said simply, surprising herself with how easily the words came. The bank wants her husband's signature on the loan, or they'll foreclose next month. Asterisk, Jacob was quiet for a long moment, his calloused hands folded in his lap. When he finally spoke, his voice was gentler than she'd ever heard it. Asterisk, I've been alone for 15 years, he said, watching Emma stack her blocks. Lost my first wife to cancer when I was 28. Never thought I'd want to try again. Asterisk, Sarah Beth felt her heart skip, but she pressed on. I know it sounds crazy, but would you consider a marriage of convenience, just on paper, to save the farm? Asterisk, the silence stretched between them, filled only by Emma's quiet humming and the rustle of cottonwood leaves. Jacob's eyes were distant, as if he were seeing something far beyond the horizon. Asterisk, Sarah Beth, he said finally, I need to tell you something. Something I should have said months ago. Asterisk, she waited, her pulse quickening. Asterisk, I didn't just happen to notice your fence posts were broken, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. I've been watching over you and Emma since Daniel passed. Not in any improper way, just making sure you were safe, making sure you had what you needed. Asterisk, the revelation settled over her like a warm blanket. All those times she'd wondered who had fixed the gate latch, who had stacked the firewood so neatly, who had scared off the coyotes that had been prowling near the chicken coop. Asterisk, why, she asked softly. Asterisk, Jacob's smile was sad but genuine. Because Daniel asked me to. The night before he died, he came to see me. Somehow, he knew. He asked me to look after his girls if anything happened to him. Asterisk, tears spilled down Sarah Beth's cheeks. But they weren't tears of sadness alone. They were the kind of tears that come when you realize you haven't been as alone as you thought. Asterisk, he knew you'd be too proud to ask for help. Jacob continued, so he asked me to help without you knowing. But Sarah Beth, it stopped being about Daniel a long time ago. Asterisk, the weight of his words hung in the air like morning mist. Emma looked up from her blocks, sensing the shift in the adults' conversation. Asterisk, Uncle Jacob, she said, using the name she'd started calling him weeks ago. Play blocks. Asterisk, Jacob knelt down beside her, his large hands gentle as he helped her build a tower. What do you think, Emma? Should Uncle Jacob come live with you and Mama? Asterisk, Emma clapped her hands in delight. Yes, make pancakes. Asterisk, Sarah Beth laughed through her tears. He does make good pancakes. Asterisk, I'd like to marry you, Jacob said simply, still kneeling beside Emma, not just to save the farm, though that matters too. I'd like to be Emma's father and your husband, for real. Asterisk, the proposal was nothing like the one Daniel had given her 10 years ago. Full of youthful passion and grand promises, this was something deeper, built on friendship and shared understanding, on the kind of love that grows slowly and roots deep. Asterisk, I don't have much to offer, Sarah Beth said, her voice trembling. A struggling farm, a 2-year-old who wakes up crying for her daddy, and a heart that's still healing. Asterisk, Jacob stood, taking her hands in his. Sarah Beth, I've got a heart that's been empty for 15 years, a farm that's too quiet, and more love stored up than I know what to do with. Seems like we might need each other. Asterisk, they were married 3 weeks later in the little white church where Daniel was buried, with Emma as their flower girl and the whole community as witnesses. Mary Henderson cried happy tears, and even the Sternbank president smiled as he watched Jacob sign the loan papers. Asterisk, the first year wasn't easy. There were nights when Sarah Beth woke up disoriented, forgetting for a moment which husband lay beside her. There were times when Jacob's quiet nature left her feeling isolated, and moments when Emma's resemblance to Daniel made the grief fresh again. Asterisk, but there were also Sunday morning pancakes, and Jacob's patient hands teaching Emma to milk the old Jersey cow. There were evenings when they sat on the porch together, not needing to fill the silence with words, just content to watch the sunset paint the sky. Asterisk, the farm began to thrive under Jacob's careful management. He expanded the vegetable garden, started a small orchard, and taught Sarah Beth the farming wisdom his father had passed down to him. Emma grew into a confident little girl who called him Daddy without reservation, though she kept Daniel's picture on her nightstand. Asterisk, one evening in their second spring together, as they watched Emma chase fireflies in the twilight, Sarah Beth realized something had shifted. The love she felt for Jacob wasn't the replacement for what she'd lost. It was something entirely new, something that honored her past while embracing her future. Asterisk, I love you, she said quietly, the words feeling both foreign and familiar on her lips. Asterisk, Jacob's untightened round her shoulders. I love you too, Sarah Beth, both of you. Asterisk, years later, when Emma was grown and married with children of her own, she would tell her own daughter about the quiet farmer who saved their family. Not with grand gestures or dramatic decorations, but with steady presence and gentle love. Asterisk some people, Emma would say, are meant to be the heroes of big, loud stories. But your grandfather Jacob, he was the hero of small, quiet moments. And sometimes those are the most important stories of all. Asterisk the farm still stands today, thriving under the care of a son. A testament to the truth that love doesn't always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives wearing work boots and a worn hat, carrying vegetables from the garden and promises that stretch as far as the horizon. Asterisk sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that grow slowly, rooted in kindness and tended with patience, until they become as much a part of the landscape as the old oak trees that have watched over the land for generations.